Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our program brought to you by Madisonville Marine. And right now, they got tremendous prices year-round, but right now they have incredible cash rebates up to $3,000 depending on the model of Skeeter boat that you buy at Madisonville Marine. And you can get up to $1,500 off select models of G3 boats, which means if you decide to buy a Skeeter and a G3, you can get up to $4,500 back. And if anyone does that, I hope Madisonville Marine gives me a commission. They have a great selection, Skeeter, G3, and many other boats. Always a great deal. Steve Sloan, Joe Special, those guys at Madisonville Marine will take care of you. Get down there and check them out. All right, want to talk, this is our Hot Read segment. 2 quick questions. First one. The offensive line got shuffled around last night due to injuries. You had Jacob Gillum come in. He went to right tackle, playing with an ACL tear. You had Brent Kendrick come in at left tackle, which allowed Kyler Kerbyson to move in at left guard. He's naturally a guard, more on the right side, but still moved him in there. They didn't get turnstiled as much as they had been, so you got to give them that. At the same time, as we mentioned, Dobbs allowed Tennessee's coaching staff to roll the pocket a lot, I think, which helped, something they really can't do as much with Worley. And Dobbs had some escapability, as you say. Where do you give the credit? Is it all Dobbs? Is it all the offensive line? Mostly Dobbs? Where is it?
I think it's shared, and I'll steal a phrase from Will from earlier when he was talking about the defense, the essence of hope. I think that Dobbs gave the offensive line an essence of hope. And I do think when they shuffled that line, I thought that's bad news going against Alabama. Actually, it turned out to be pretty good because I thought Kendrick did a nice job, Gillum at right tackle. I thought Kerbyson did a pretty good job. And when Tennessee was running the zone read, the quarterback didn't go to the edge as much. And I asked Dobbs about that afterward. He said it was designed to go up the middle, and he had success going up the middle. And I thought they actually had more holes that they had opened for him, and I thought he did a good job of reading that.
And I think I thought something else last night that helped out too was your backs blocked very well. When Alabama did get pressure when they dropped back to pass, I thought the backs did a really good job of picking some of that stuff up. And to go to the point that Will made in the earlier segment, not only does it slow your defensive ends down a little bit, if your tackles get too far upfield and leave a lane, you've got a guy now that can run through that lane. And a couple of his scrambles were more or less right up the middle. So I think his quickness and speed kind of affected Alabama and helped the offensive line. I still think sometimes, though, they did when they brought pressure, they got turnstile, but you're able to get away from it.
Dobbs took several hits.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. I think they did play better. I think the shift helped them. I think the offensive line played better. But I think if Worley is still your guy in there, I think today we're talking about, well, the offensive line gave up a lot of sacks again, and they lost us the ball game. So I also think that having Dobbs in there is definitely, you can't say, did the offensive line get better? Yes, congratulations. They improved from where they had been. But Dobbs, you have 4 or 5 more sacks that are laying out there on the field, or chances to have fumbles or whatever else can happen, bad plays that don't happen because you have a mobile player.
Because he can escape.
And one time he breaks a tackle. Dobbs breaks a tackle in what? Gained like over 30 yards? Right. I mean, that instead of being a 7 or 10 yard sack, turns into a 30-plus yard gain. I think you got to really sing the praises of Jacob Gillum, and I think Kyler Culberson. He's not a left tackle by nature. Moving him into guard helps. But to have a player out there at right tackle that's playing on an ACL, they say cannot get worse. If that does not inspire your teammates, I don't know what does.
Well, another thing I liked about what they did with this offense, they ran for 182 yards. Alabama had been giving up 62. They led the nation in run defense. Now, a lot of that was on Dobbs because he got 75 yards, but Hurd got some yards. They averaged 4.2 a carry running it. So they would have given up more sacks with Worley, but to run for that against Alabama, I was stunned.
I agree. I've got some numbers here I want to put up here that show that. Dobbs had 19 carries for 75 yards. One of those was a sack that lost yardage, so it would have been more. Right. He averaged 3.9. The other guys on the team, 24 carries for 106 yards, 4.4 just for those other running backs. But if you take Marlon Lane's rush out of it, it's 23 for 62. It's back to that 2.6. So in my view, if you take Lane out of it, now the Lane run happened, but we do that from time to time. You take one bad play out, you take one good play out. What it shows me is I don't know how much that opened up holes for everybody else, but Dobbs is certainly a weapon that you didn't have. I mean, just having Dobbs out there as a runner is an advantage for this offense. I mean, forget the passing.
Sure it is.
Just having it, and the way he played last night. Now, if he fumbles another couple of times, we may say differently, but right now it's positive.
But this offense is built around a mobile quarterback. I mean, what this offense is built around. So, I mean, if you don't have a mobile quarterback, your whole run game is going to be hurt. because you're designing it around having the threat of a mobile quarterback to take guys out of the play, to eliminate defensive guys tagging in on the running back at all times.
And if you're a defensive coordinator, now you have to game plan for that. You have to account for that somehow. Do you play as much man, or do you go to zone? Or how are you going to change? You're going to have a spy? You're going to have somebody trying to keep an eye? So, I mean, I think that helps your offense.
One more guy to worry
doing
about.
that.
Absolutely. All right. Tennessee allowed 11 of 15 third down conversions. This from a team that's best in the SEC in third down defense. Their 6th-ranked pass defense gave up 220-plus yards to Amari Cooper. That's a school record for Alabama. He snaps the school record set by Julio Jones against Tennessee 4 years ago. Will Overstreet, I'll start with you. What happened to the defense?
Well, I mean, listen, you've got a great player out there. You've got an all-pro, future all-pro wide receiver. And every team has struggled to put him in there. And then you've got an offensive coordinator that looks at it as, I don't care what everybody else on the team gets. I'm going to take one guy and I'm going to figure out the matchup, put him in zone, move him around. It's a more difficult system. It's what the pros do. They take one guy and they find your one weakness and they move him to wherever they can, and they just play that one-on-one game. Yeah. And then the other thing is you have the best offensive line you faced.
Yep.
Big, can block for pass, and can knock you off the ball. And you've still got a young, not deep defensive line that eventually you started seeing the impact of the running game on that.
I think sometimes the other team is just better. I mean, and that team put 59 points on Texas A&M. And the thing about Cooper, well, Kiffin's a good play caller. He may not be a good head coach. Guy's a pretty good offensive coordinator. Yeah. Cooper is responsible for, and this is astounding to me, a receiver, not a running back, a receiver has accounted for 26% of their total offense this year. One player, 26% of Alabama's total yards. That's amazing.
John, they had targeted him 87 times coming into the Tennessee game, and the next highest receiver was 27 targets. But I thought they did a really good job. They matched him up with Mosley. They matched him up with Maben. They did a nice job moving him around. I give him some credit for that.
Sutton slipped on that second touchdown and never could recover, and the safety didn't get over there. You were going to say something about the defense.
I was just going to say, you throw in with Cooper the fact that you've also got to have a really good running game.
Yeah.
And so that means that you can't sell out to stop this guy.
Yeah. Right.
Because there would be things that you could do if you didn't have that good running game, that huge offensive line that run blocks really well. There would have been something you could have done. But if you do it, okay, now we're just going to cram Yeldon down your throat.
And,
Henry. And whoever else. It seems like they keep running the same guy out there.
And that's a team without their best start.
They're the toughest offense you played this year. I mean, so you were going to – this is the biggest challenge you faced. All these other offenses were good, but – just because Alabama lost to Ole Miss doesn't mean they're still not one of the best, if not the possibly best team in the nation.
I think they have a cloning program.
Personnel-wise, you've had 3 number 1 classes in a row. So
I think Tennessee gave up more yards in the first quarter than the rest of the 3 quarters combined. I think.
Well, the fact that the fact that Alabama kind of went to sleep a little bit, but also Tennessee's defense woke up. Yeah. I think that gives you encouragement. I think that one, sometimes it's not your night. That other team was pretty good out there. I wouldn't blame the defense too much. We'll see if that's a trend going forward. When we come back, the rest of our players join us, and we're talking necessary roughness. What did you think of that decision to kick a field goal at the end of the first half? I think we'll talk about that. Come on back on the Sports Source.